She boarded the plane with nothing but excitement for her future. But within minutes, her dream trip turned into a nightmare. A flight attendant's icy glare, a whispered conversation, and suddenly, she was being forced off the plane. No explanation, no mercy. Just humiliation in front of dozens of silent passengers. But what no one knew, the girl they kicked out wasn't just anyone, and in a shocking twist, fate would soon place her in a position no one saw coming. How did she go from being thrown off a flight to owning the skies? Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Aaliyah Carter had spent years working toward this moment. Fresh out of college, she had landed her dream job interview with one of the biggest aviation companies in the country. Boarding the plane that morning, she felt unstoppable, like the sky itself was within her reach. Dressed in a crisp navy blazer, she carried herself with confidence. She wasn't just another passenger. She was a young black woman ready to defy the odds. The flight was just a means to an end, a simple step toward her future. But as she walked down the aisle, she felt it, a shift in the air. The subtle stares, the hushed whispers. A flight attendant, arms crossed tightly, watching her every move. Aaliyah brushed it off. Maybe she was imagining things. She found her seat, exhaled, and pulled out her notebook to review her notes. But just as she settled in, a shadow loomed over her. The same flight attendant, now standing inches away. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me." Aaliyah's stomach twisted. Something was wrong. But she had no idea just how quickly everything was about to unravel. Aaliyah's heart pounded as she followed the flight attendant down the narrow aisle. Passengers turned to watch, some whispering, others pretending not to notice. Her throat tightened. What was happening? She hadn't done anything wrong. They reached the front of the plane where two more crew members stood waiting. Their faces were unreadable, cold. The flight attendant crossed her arms. "We need to remove you from this flight." Aaliyah blinked. "What? Why?" The attendant's expression barely changed. "You're making the other passengers uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable?" Aaliyah's stomach dropped. She scanned the cabin, dozens of faces, mostly white, avoiding her gaze. No one spoke up. No one defended her. "This has to be a mistake," she said, voice shaking. "I'm just here for my interview." "It's not up for discussion," the attendant cut in. "Please grab your things." Heat burned behind Aaliyah's eyes. Humiliation clawed at her throat, but she refused to let them see her break. Clenching her jaw, she reached for her bag. As she stepped off the plane, the cold airport air hit her like a slap. A security officer waited at the gate, arms folded as if expecting trouble. "What happened?" Aaliyah demanded, fighting to keep her voice steady. The officer barely looked at her. "They said you were being disruptive." Disruptive? She had barely spoken a word since boarding, but she knew what this was. She'd seen it before. The unspoken rules, the coded language, the way people like her were labeled aggressive or difficult just for existing in certain spaces. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes, but she swallowed them down. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of them. But as she stood there, gripping the strap of her bag with white-knuckled fingers, she made a silent vow. They thought they had humiliated her, but they had just fueled something far more powerful. Aaliyah sat in the airport terminal, her hands trembling as she scrolled through her phone. Should she post about it? Should she let it go? Her heart pounded with rage, humiliation, and something else, determination. This wasn't just about her anymore. How many others had been silenced, humiliated, thrown aside like they didn't belong? With a deep breath, she hit record. I was just kicked off a flight for no reason. They said I made people uncomfortable. But let me be clear. I was quiet. I was respectful. I was just another paying passenger. So why was I the one removed? I think we all know why. She posted the video and locked her phone, trying to breathe through the storm inside her. But within minutes, her world changed. Notifications flooded in. Likes, shares, comments. Thousands, then millions. Celebrities, activists, even politicians were resharing her story, demanding answers. Justice. 4. Aaliyah was trending worldwide. Then the phone call came. Aaliyah Carter? The voice on the line was calm, composed. I'm calling on behalf of Horizon Airways. We'd like to formally apologize. She gripped her phone tighter. Apologize? Her voice dripped with disbelief. You humiliated me. You let your employees throw me off a flight like I didn't matter. And now that the world is watching, you want to say sorry. A pause. Then the voice continued. We'd also like to discuss an opportunity, one that might interest you. Aaliyah frowned. What kind of opportunity? The next words hit her like a shockwave. We'd like to offer you a leadership position, a seat at the table. Her breath caught in her throat. Was this real? The same airline that had thrown her out? Now wanted her to lead? She exhaled slowly, heart racing. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about change. And for the first time, she realized she held the power now. Aaliyah sat at the head of the long conference table. The same airline executives who once dismissed her now waiting for her decision. She wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was the one shaping policy. She didn't take the job for a paycheck. She took it for every black traveler who had been disrespected, for every person who had been judged before they even spoke. If they wanted to make things right, they had to do more than apologize. Under her leadership, Horizon Airways implemented sweeping reforms, mandatory anti-discrimination training, stronger accountability for biased employees, and a new initiative to promote diversity at every level of the company. But Aaliyah knew one thing. This wasn't just about one airline. Her story had sparked something bigger. News outlets covered it for weeks. Her inbox filled with messages. Black men and women sharing their own stories of being treated like second-class citizens in airports, stores, classrooms. The truth was clear. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was America. She thought back to that moment when she was forced off the plane, humiliated and powerless. Now she stood taller than ever, knowing she had turned that moment into a movement. But the fight wasn't over. Because for every Aaliyah who gets justice, there are still countless others whose voices are silenced. So the question remains, how many more times before the world finally listens? If this story moved you, don't stay silent. Share your thoughts in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. Never forget to like, share, and subscribe.